Pro-Palestinian demonstrators have cleared their encampment at the University of Toronto ahead of that 6 p.m. deadline. But a solidarity rally taking place this hour. We'll take you live to the school's campus in moments.
And preparing for a possible LCBO strike, both sides, they are back at the bargaining table. This is ahead of Friday's deadline.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faces questions about his political future following a historic by-election loss in Toronto. We'll tell you what he said today.
And the Leaf development camp, it's now open.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us. We begin downtown tonight. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators have cleared their encampment at the University of Toronto ahead of tonight's deadline.
Yeah, our Steve Ryan has been on campus all day following the latest developments. Hey, Steve.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I'm going to just rant, and cut me off if I go too long. I won't be offended. We're expecting to hear from some of the student demonstrators any time now. There's a large crowd that have started at the encampment. The encampment appears to be cleared out. Now, they've got the support here of OFL and CUPE. Speeches were made on the south side of the Kings Park Circle, and now I am being told that the crowd is going to take over College Street, and where they go from there, we do not know. But that seems to be the next plan. I have seen police officers around as well, and the injunction has until 6 o'clock to be, the people, I should say, have until 6 o'clock to be cleared out of the injunction. And it appears as though they have, for the most part, cleared out of the injunction. Tents are down. Belongings, valuables have all been removed, and there's been some passionate speeches made on the south side of King's College. And like I said, they're making their way now to College Street, where we're supposed to hear from some of the demonstrators as to what their next move is. That's their words, not mine. And I am told by one of the organizers that they are planning to take over College Street. Send it back to you.
All right, Steve Ryan, live at the U of T's downtown campus this hour. Really active scene there. A rally taking place in solidarity with pro-Palestinian demonstrators that have occupied the space for 2 months now. We are expecting to hear from organizers of the encampment later this hour, so keep it here on CP24 for that.
And a pedestrian is dead after being hit by a streetcar in the West End.
This is the scene at Queen and Sororan Avenue west of Lansdowne. These images coming into our newsroom this afternoon. It happened around 4 o'clock. Paramedics telling CP24 the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Roads in the area are closed for this investigation, and the TTC also diverting around the scene. And police are looking for a suspect after 3 random assaults in the East End earlier this week.
Yeah, the assaults, they all took place around noon Monday in the Queen East and Carlisle area. And police say that the 3 victims, they were all assaulted without provocation. The suspect is described as being 20 to 40 years old, 6 feet tall, with a slim build. He was wearing a red baseball hat, a striped button-down shirt with a black shirt underneath, black shorts, running shoes, and a black backpack.
Well, police in York Region have released an image of a suspect vehicle after shots were fired in Markham.
Yeah, police are searching for this dark gray Acura RDX Type S with dark tinted windows. Investigators say on Monday night around 11 o'clock, officers responded to the Burr Oak and Mingay Avenue area west of Markham Road. A home was hit by bullets. 2 people say that they were shot at by 2 suspects. No one was hurt. Police say that surveillance video shows the vehicle parked at the back of the house waiting for the victims to come back home. And they believe that this was a targeted incident.
York police are appealing for witnesses tonight after a series of shootings at a cinema in Richmond Hill. The latest incident happened around 3:15 a.m. on Saturday near East Beaver Creek and Highway 7. A number of bullet holes and shell casings were located. No one was injured. Police say this is the 4th shooting at the same cinema since May 17th, but a different suspect vehicle was used in each incident.
And Peel police are asking for help identifying a suspect in an arson in Brampton.
Investigators have released these images of the person they're looking for. They say the suspect started a fire at a residence near Autumn Ridge Drive near Sandalwood Parkway in Bramalea back on June 11th. The suspect was last seen on a black bike at the intersection of Bramalea and Mayfield Roads. No injuries were reported, but there was extensive damage to the home's front doors and windows. Anybody with information has to come forward.
Well, former inmates of Ontario jails and immigration detainees who were in them, they're suing the provincial and federal governments. The
class action lawsuits say Ontario is the only province where inmates are regularly locked down because of staff shortages.
Yeah, plaintiffs say that they were held in their cells for hours, days, or even weeks as there weren't enough staff to safely let them out. So the lawsuits say that the lockdowns stripped inmates of basic human rights and violated their charter rights to life, liberty, and security, and the right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. And recent data show that 81% of inmates in provincial jails are awaiting trial, therefore presumed innocent.
5:05, 29 degrees, feeling more like 37. It's a hot one out there. What about that drive home?
Yeah, it's also heating up, Lena. If you're making your way on the major routes, well, it was heating up about an hour ago. This was the eastbound 401. It was a vehicle fire in the eastbound 401 express lanes through Dixie. At one point, all lanes in the express were blocked. Now it is just the two left lanes that are occupied. But again, damage has been done. It is a very slow commute if you're on the eastbound side from well before Mavis. Then onto the northbound lanes of the 404, just over the 401. We were dealing with a collision. It had the left lane blocked on the ramp that does take you to the northbound 404, but they're trying to squeeze over to the Bullnose. And the other issue impacting the drive is on the southbound lanes of the 404, just south of Steeles. Crews on scene of a collision that does have the left lane blocked. A reminder on city streets, big issues. A fatal collision investigation has shut down Queen in either direction between Jameson and Soren. Closure is expected to last for the next little bit. I'll send it back to you, Lena Bakari.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Organizers of the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto are addressing the media. Let's listen live.
And genocide of the Palestinian people. We have torn away the mask of neutrality and revealed the ugly truth. The face of the University of Toronto is the face of genocide. It is the face of an institution more concerned with its reputation than with the lives of Palestinians. It is an institution that claims to be reasonable, balancing both sides of an issue, while systematically discriminating against its own Palestinian students and funding the extermination of their families. This neutrality is a lie that they use to wash their hands of the most basic human responsibility that they have, to not murder the innocent. We reject this false neutrality. We have rejected this false neutrality and made it clear that U of T has failed to stand on the side of justice and human rights. Today, we are departing from the People's Circle for Palestine, earlier than the 6 p.m. deadline set by the court. We refuse to give the Toronto Police Service any opportunity to brutalize us, as they have done repeatedly. As they have done repeatedly since October to pro-Palestinian protesters across the GTA. We are leaving on our terms to protect our community from the violence that the University of Toronto is clearly eager to unleash upon us. The same violence their cowardly campus safety officers used against us to stifle our right to protest our own governing council less than a week ago. Shame! Hear this. Our continued occupation through the summer convocation period was a massive victory. We showed every U of T graduate and their families that the institution they were celebrating has played an active role in this genocide. We prevented the university from convocation washing its complicity during what should have been a time of reflection on its moral responsibilities. Despite their efforts to hide our protests from graduating students, we made sure that the university could not use a moment of celebration to distract from the genocide and scholasticide, preventing students in Gaza from graduating. We made sure to let everybody see that the same institution celebrating graduating students here is funding the bombs that cut innocent Palestinian lives short in Gaza. Our actions for Gaza at convocation frustrated the administration so much they filed to submit evidence that helped our case, actually, far past the deadline that the court gave them. This allowed us to play a message from my family in Gaza in court, forever cementing it in the public record for the whole world to hear. Let us be clear. the University of Toronto will disclose its investments, divest from companies profiting from Palestinian suffering. They will divest from companies profiting from the Palestinian suffering and deaths, and cut ties with academic institutions tied to the Israeli war machine. The question is not if, but when. Will the university act now with principle and conscience, or will it be too late, like it was during South African apartheid? 2.3 million Palestinian lives hang in the balance. We ask again, how many more Palestinians need to die for U of T to act? How many of its own students need to lose their families for U of T to care? Since we have started our encampment, over 5,000 Palestinians have been viciously murdered. Tens of thousands more are missing, diseased, maimed, and injured, all at the hands of the genocidal Israeli military that U of T funds with its investments. Shame!
You've been listening to organizers of the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto addressing the media this hour. Protesters have cleared their encampment ahead of the 6 p.m. deadline, but they've criticized the U of T for requesting this injunction order. They say they are leaving on their own terms to protect their community. For its part, the University of Toronto has called the encampment disruptive and harmful. A solidarity rally is taking place on school grounds this hour, and we'll have more on that throughout the evening.
Right now it's 5:11, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5, and coming up, the latest on a looming potential LCBO strike. All right, well, 10,000 LCBO workers, they could walk off the job on Friday. The union and the LCBO, they're back at the bargaining table today.
Let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins for the latest on the negotiations. Another day, another potential strike, Phil.
Yeah, we had people already looking at the WestJet Mechanics Union, saying whether they're going to go on strike. They eventually did during the Canada Day long weekend, but now people need to shift their attention to the LCBO and see if there could be a strike as of Friday, 12:01 a.m. if a deal cannot be reached between OPSU, which represents the 10,000 LCBO workers, and the LCBO itself. But this is not your regular run-of-the-mill strike. According to the LCBO on its website, they say that if a strike were to be actually implemented this Friday, stores will be closed for 2 weeks. But then, once that 2 weeks is up on Friday, July 30th, 30 stores are going to open for in-store shopping 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and there'll be limited hours as well. So with that, we spoke to some people outside some LCBO locations, asked them, are they shopping any differently, or there's a little bit of panic buying going on right now?
Some of the stuff that's just unclear is, timelines on delivery, as well as they haven't clarified which products, but they've said certain products may be unavailable and certain products may only be available in case quantities. I'm a cocktail bar, so there's certain things that I'm bringing in one bottle that lasts me 2 years because we're using it by quarter ounces. I don't want to buy a case of that. And then there's certain things where, Campari. We run out of Campari and I can't get that for a week and a half. We're done.
Planning ahead, I got a couple of family get-togethers over the weekend and next week. So that's all it's for.
It kind of is what it is at some point. I respect the workers and their rights. If I got to plan ahead, I still got a couple days. Things can get busy. We'll see what happens.
So again, if this strike does happen, an interesting wrinkle here on the LCBO website, it says that even if a strike is happening, you can still order things on the LCBO website and on their app as well, and they will send it to your home anywhere in Ontario for free. So that is still available during this strike. You can also obviously still shop at grocery stores that still sell beer and wine, just not the hard stuff. Also, beer store, wine rack, that'll still be open, as well as specialty stores. Send it back to you guys.
Yeah, people have options. CP24's Phil Perkins. Thanks a lot, Phil.
No problem.
Well, the province is calling on the federal government to provide its share of funding for replacement subway trains on Line 2. So the Ford government promised $758 million for the subway cars as part of its new deal with Toronto. However, that was conditional on Ottawa pitching in as well. So Premier Doug Ford wants the feds to announce their commitment. The replacement trains are made in Thunder Bay, and he says that thousands of workers there are depending on the project, in addition to millions of transit riders. Well, Ontario's transportation minister stopped by CP24 today to discuss the need for public transit funding.
It's critical to Toronto's and Ontario's transit plan to making sure that we have this money. The Premier Doug Ford, Mayor Olivia Chow committed to this in December of this year, and each ponied up $750 million each. We're talking about 55 new cars that will support good-paying jobs in Thunder Bay, but most importantly, support transit users in this city. When we talk about Line 2, it's about making sure that the state of good repairs of our TTC trains continues to keep up to speed.
Timmins James Bay NDP MP Charlie Angus says the Trudeau government needs to step up for the people of Toronto and Thunder Bay.
I've been on this for over a year now. We've met with the union in Thunder Bay. I've spoken with the mayor of Toronto. He really needs to be there because we can't do this without the federal share. And I think this has been a sign that, Mr. Trudeau has been taking Toronto for granted for so long. He's got a lot of Liberal MPs. They haven't spoken up on this. But given his recent shock in Toronto, St. Paul, I think it should be a message to him that he can't continue to take the people of Toronto for granted, and he can't take Northern Ontario for granted.
And a statement from the Office of the Federal Minister of Housing and Infrastructure reads, while we cannot comment on specific funding decisions, we are continuing to collaborate closely with the TTC and the City of Toronto on how we can support their needs.
Well, the aging subway trains used along Line 2, they're going to be at the end of their design life in 2026, so there's that.
It is 5:18, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, the Prime Minister was asked about the state of his party after losing a Liberal stronghold riding to the Conservatives. We're going to tell you how he responded next. Well, the federal Liberals are in flux with questions being raised about Justin Trudeau's leadership. This is following last week's historic by-election loss in Toronto.
CP24's Sija Liu joins us live with more on what the Prime Minister is saying. And, of course, he's facing calls to step down. How is he responding to that, Sija?
Well, Lena and Bakari, he is staying strong with the message he's been saying the last little while. He intends to stay in office despite these repeated calls for him to step down. This follows the recent by-election loss of Toronto St. Paul's, which was a huge loss for the Liberal stronghold. He says he intends to stay in office. Now, he did say today he's not going to sugarcoat it, admitting that last week's by-election was challenging. Since then, some MPs have privately called for an in-person emergency meeting of all MPs. Trudeau right now won't say whether or not he'll hold a national caucus meeting to discuss the fallout. Other MPs have also expressed their interest in a cabinet shuffle. This is also something the PM is staying quiet on. Now, Trudeau was in Montreal today for a local infrastructure announcement. This is the first time he held a press conference since that by-election loss. He was peppered with questions about the fallout and his next steps.
Last week's by-election loss, not to sugarcoat it, was challenging. Was something we need to take seriously, and we've been engaged in lots of important conversations. I've had lots of calls with different members of caucus from across the country, not just in the GTA, to talk about how we make sure we're continuing our work connecting with Canadians to make sure we're continuing to deliver for people. There are, as always, a range of perspectives and voices within the Liberal Party, and listening to all those voices and giving them all time to engage is really, really important. And that's what we've been doing and what I'm going to continue to do while we stay focused on delivering for Canadians.
And during that press conference, the Prime Minister was asked 3 times by reporters if he would hold an imminent national caucus meeting. He did not answer any of those questions directly. We also spoke with CTV's political commentator Scott Reid, who says Trudeau has 3 options at this time.
The 3 options really are: he could leave right away, says he isn't gonna. He could leave late, says he isn't going to. And he could, in the final turn, he could deliver up a real dose of change, take a tumble, see if it's enough to melt voters' antipathy, see if he could turn the country around and reverse those polls. But that would require him to make big decisions that are very uncomfortable and of the sort that he hasn't been willing to make. I'm talking about things like bringing in a brand new economic agenda, probably bringing in a new finance minister. Certainly would mean abandoning the carbon tax, probably walking away from the deal with the NDP so that the party stands on its own, is able to look like it's more centrist rather than moving to the left.
So far, the people that have called for Trudeau to step down are some of his former cabinet ministers, one sitting Liberal MP, but all of his current cabinet ministers still have confidence in Trudeau and say he is still the best person to take on Pierre Poilievre in this next election. As for right now, Trudeau says his focus is on governing and continuing to do what's in the best interest of Canadians. Back to you.
All right, CJ, thanks so much for this.
It's now 5:24, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5. And coming up, across the pond, Bianca Andreescu advances to the third round at Wimbledon.
Bianca Andreescu is off to the third round at Wimbledon.
But it is game, set and match. And also
the 24-year-old made quick work of Czechia's Linda Noskova, winning the match 6-3, 7-5. It is Andreescu's 8th victory of the season and 6th on grass. She'll play her next match on Friday. And a brutal opening round loss for Felix Auger-Aliassime, who is the tournament's 17th seed. He went down in 5 sets to the 93rd ranked player in the world in a match that started yesterday and was delayed several times thanks to the rain. Auger-Aliassime won the first 2 sets before dropping the third in a lengthy tiebreak and losing the fourth and fifth sets 6-4. It's the third straight year the Montreal native has gone out in the first round at Wimbledon.
Well, former Team Canada player, we're talking about Jessica Campbell, has made hockey history again. She's going to become the first woman to work on the bench of an NHL franchise after being hired today as assistant coach for the Seattle Kraken. In 2022, Campbell became the first female assistant coach in the AHL, working with Seattle's affiliate in Coachella Valley. Well, Campbell was a decorated player in the NCAA, the Canadian Women's Hockey League, and Canada's women's national team, with whom she won silver at the 2015 World Championship.
It is 5:28, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Yeah, and we're live on the campus of the University of Toronto. This is where protesters are holding a rally after clearing a pro-Palestinian encampment ahead of a 6 p.m. deadline. And we're live on the campus of the University of Toronto. This is where protesters are holding a rally after clearing a pro-Palestinian encampment. This is ahead of that 6 p.m. deadline.
Preparing for a possible LCBO strike, both sides return to the bargaining table ahead of Friday's deadline.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faces questions about his future as Liberal leader following a historic by-election loss in Toronto.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Organizers of the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto, they've been addressing the media and speaking at a rally. This is after clearing their encampment ahead of the 6 p.m. deadline. Here's a live look.
That's right, a rally taking place in solidarity with pro-Palestinian demonstrators. That's happening on U of T grounds this hour. We just heard from protesters. Take a look at that large crowd there. They have cleared their encampment ahead of the 6 p.m. deadline, but they've also criticized the school administration for requesting an injunction. They had until 6 p.m. Tonight to clear the encampment. All day, we've witnessed protesters tearing down, removing their belongings, but they say they're still waiting for the school to address some of their demands. They did say tonight that they are leaving on their own terms to protect their community. Let's get to what the U of T has been saying about this. They've called this encampment that's been there for 2 months now disruptive and harmful, also arguing that it's made some students on campus feel unsafe. So again, this is a live shot from the University of Toronto this hour where a solidarity rally is taking place. Our cameras are there as well, and we'll keep a close eye for any developments. Or Steve Ryan also on the ground tonight.
And a pedestrian's dead after being hit by a streetcar. This happened in the West End.
Well, this is the scene at Queen and Sororan Avenue west of Lansdowne. It happened around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Paramedics tell CP24 the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Roads in the area are closed for the investigation, and the TTC also diverting around the scene.
Okay, so we know what's happening there. That road closure for everything else in the GTA We turn to Adjoa Ntiayabois. Adj, good evening.
Oh, good evening. And yeah, it continues to be quite the busy afternoon drive. And we do have brand new problems through Milton now on the eastbound lanes of the 401. This is in the collectors through Trafalgar. Find the left lane blocked. This is following a collision involving a truck and another vehicle that's being hooked up to tow. But the good news through here, at least, not seeing too much of a delay. It says you make your way further east, you're putting on the brakes from Mavis all the way out towards Dixie in the Express. Crews dealing with that vehicle fire cleanup happened earlier this afternoon. 2 left lanes are occupied. Then a stall on the southbound lanes of the Don Valley Parkway south of Steeles. It is the left lane that is off limits. And we are dealing with some problems. It looks like they might be just a further along on the camera, just past the South Kingsway. It is reports of a collision that does have the left lane blocked. So it's been quite the busy afternoon. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Adjoa, thanks so much. Also making news tonight, police are looking for a suspect after 3 random assaults in the East End earlier this week.
Yeah, the assaults all took place around noon Monday in the Queen East and Carlisle area. And police say the 3 victims, they were all assaulted without provocation. The suspect is described as being 20 to 40 years old, 6 feet tall, with a slim build. He was wearing a red baseball hat, a striped button-down shirt with a black shirt underneath, black shorts, running shoes, and a black backpack.
We'll take you to Markham now, where police have released an image of a suspect vehicle after shots were fired.
Yeah, so police, they're looking for this dark gray Acura RDX Type S with dark tinted windows. Investigators say on Monday night around 11 o'clock, officers responded to the Burr Oak and Mingay Avenue area west of Markham Road. A home was hit by bullets. 2 people say that they were shot at by 2 suspects. No one was hurt, and police say that surveillance video shows the vehicles parked at the back of the house, literally waiting for the victims to come back home. And they believe that this was a targeted incident.
York police are appealing for witnesses after a series of shootings at a cinema in Richmond Hill. The latest incident happened around 3:15 a.m. on Saturday near East Beaver Creek and Highway 7. A number of bullet holes and shell casings were located, but no one was injured. Police say this is the 4th shooting at the same cinema since May 17th, but a different suspect vehicle was used in each incident. And police have identified a suspect wanted in 2 sexual assault investigations.
39-year-old Clifford Belda is wanted for 2 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of voyeurism. Investigators say that the one incident happened June 18th when a victim was followed into a residential building in the Bathurst and Shepherd area. A second victim tells police that they were followed into a building near Bathurst and Wilson yesterday and sexually assaulted. Anyone with information, contact police at 32 Division or Crime Stoppers.
5:35, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5. Coming up, the union and the LCBO return to the bargaining table today ahead of Friday's potential strike deadline. All eyes on negotiations. Stay with us.
All right, back to our top story. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators, they've cleared their encampment at the University of Toronto. This is ahead of this evening's deadline, which was imposed for 6 o'clock. And throughout the day, they've been packing up their belongings and tearing down. Happening now, a rally taking place in solidarity with protesters.
And that is where we find CP24's Steve Ryan. He's there for us tonight, somewhere in this crowd. Steve, I know you can't hear us, so take it away.
You're condoning genocide. You're condoning genocide.
Guys, we just heard from some of the organizers, students at the University of Toronto, and they have said that they are leaving the encampment. And they said they're doing it on their own accord, and they're not doing it as a result of the police making them do that. They want to leave on their own terms, and they said this is what they are doing. But they have vowed to continue with their demonstrations. They said this is only one tactic in their tool belt, to use their quotes. Now, the large crowd has made their way onto College Street, and unfortunately for those traveling on College Street, you're going to be blocked with this very large crowd. We do not know where they're going, but I was told that this is what they were intending to do. So the 6 o'clock court order, I'm sorry, it's hard to hear it if I'm shouting, I apologize. The 6 o'clock court order will be in effect very shortly, but the demonstrators, the organizers have said that they have in fact vacated that, and they say there's no need for the police to attend. They're leaving on their own accord, but they do vow to continue this fight, and they said that this is not the last time you will hear from them. And as you can see, they are now walking west along College Street, and it's going to block traffic up here during rush hour. So I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan, live at the U of T. If you're just joining us, we are following developing news from the school campus. Pro-Palestinian protesters have cleared the encampment, but as you can see, there's a very large solidarity rally taking place this hour. According to Steve Ryan, they're now walking west on College, so this is a moving demonstration, if you will.
And with it being on the move, there is no need for the action, the intervention of Toronto Police, which was requested by the university as per that injunction, which was granted yesterday.
We'll keep a close eye on what's happening there. Stay with us for the very latest. Also making news, a possible temporary home for the Ontario Science Centre won't open until at least 2026.
Yeah, that's according to the request for proposals, or RFPs, for an interim site. This is after the current facility was shut down abruptly last month. The co-chair of Save Ontario Science Centre says there will not be any activities or exhibits to visit for at least 18 months. The Science Centre was shut down 2 weeks ago after the province said that an engineer's report showed the aging roof panels were a safety hazard. And Floyd Ruskin, co-chair of SaveScienceCentre.com, joined us with more of the impact of the closure.
I don't think the government took into account the science school that's closed now, the day camps that are closed, the nature camp. Don't forget, it's on the beautiful West Don Valley, and they didn't take that into account. And there's certainly not going to be space for this type of classroom and learning experience in a arcade-size spot in the mall. I mean, it just can't happen.
The Science Centre shut down 2 weeks ago after the province said an engineer's report showed the aging roof panels were a safety hazard.
Well, 10,000 LCBO workers, they could walk off the job this Friday. The union and the LCBO, they were back at the bargaining table today.
Let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins for the latest on negotiations. Are you getting any sense of how these talks are going, Phil?
No. Sent emails to OPSU and the LCBO right now. And so that's why the LCBO is doing what it can to make sure people are prepared for this potential strike. The strike deadline is this Friday at 12:01. They've extended hours so people can stock up if they have to, if they're leaving the city, or they operate a small business that offers alcohol and they can stock up there. So this is not your prototypical strike, at least from what I've seen covering labor negotiations for almost a decade now. So if a strike were to happen, it's only going to be going on for 2 weeks, that all LCBO stores will be closed. But then once that 2 weeks wraps up on Friday, July 19th, there'll be 30 LCBO stores open for in-store shopping, but it'll only be on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and have limited hours as well. Now, the workers, these 10,000 workers who are represented by OPSU, are looking for higher pay. They also are not supporting of Doug Ford's expansion of alcohol sales to convenience stores and bigger box stores. Now, we also heard from people shopping at the LCBO and whether they are planning ahead or they're taking this one day at a time. Here's what they had to say.
I'm stocking up for about a month, just in case right now. This is the third LCBO I've hit today and managed to find everything. So we're good for, give or take the next month. And depending what happens, hopefully it's resolved by then. Other than that, it's, they are providing options for us that we're able to still get product, but it's just a bit more, convoluted than normal. So I'm preparing for a month and then cross that bridge afterwards.
Not really. I mean, Metro's open, right? They sell most of the stuff. I mean, beside the hard liquor, I don't really drink hard liquor, so most of the regular stuff I can find in Metro. But if I always want something stronger, then I gotta come here, right?
Okay. Stocking up. I don't think they're gonna do it. Why would they want to do that?
What would affect you at all? Inconvenience?
I don't think so. I'll figure it out.
And so obviously there are other options there. You can buy booze, including beer and wine and some spirits at grocery stores, mixed spirits, mind you, not the actual bottle itself. You can also go to the wine rack as well. The beer store will be open. But also get this, you can still shop online at the LCBO's website and their app, and they will still deliver you your order across Ontario free of charge. So lots of options here. So anyone out there shopping personally, the panic shopping doesn't really need to happen. There's a lot of options out there for you, including purchasing from the LCBO website and app. Back to you.
Okay, no need to panic. Nope. Message received. Thanks, Phil. 544, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Yeah, coming up, Joe Biden has vowed to continue his presidential campaign despite pressure to withdraw.
U.S. President Joe Biden is vowing to continue his presidential campaign, despite some internal pressure, I'd say a lot of internal pressure from within the Democratic Party to withdraw.
Yeah, Biden's performance during the first debate, it's been widely described as disastrous, fueling concerns about the 81-year-old being able to continue on as the Democratic nominee. Well, today the White House blamed his debate performance on a cold and jet lag.
I would not call it an episode. I would call it we had a bad night, right? It was not his best night. He had a cold, he was jet lagged. You heard directly from the president about this. And when we get knocked down, when he gets knocked down, he gets right back up. And that's what I would focus on. The president continuing to be very steady and continuing to work for the American people.
Well, conversations about Biden's future as the Democratic nominee will likely only grow in the lead up to the party's national convention next month, with some Democrats already starting to hint at a potential change in the race for the Oval Office.
Jamaicans are feeling the effects of Hurricane Beryl as it roars along the southern edge of the island.
Yeah, earlier in Kingston, people boarded up windows, fishermen pulled their boats out of the water, and workers dismantled roadside signs. Forecasters have called Beryl the strongest and most dangerous hurricane threat that Jamaica's faced in decades. And Prime Minister Andrew Olness issued a state of emergency and declared a disaster zone earlier today.
An evacuation order on the direction of authorized officers is also in effect for flood-prone and landslide-prone areas, areas at or below sea level, and areas at or close to gullies or waterways. We urge all Jamaicans to comply with notices to evacuate if and when they are issued.
Beryl has already left a path of destruction in the southern Caribbean. An island in the Grenadines was almost completely destroyed. At least 6 deaths are being blamed on the storm.
And Global Affairs is advising against all non-essential travel to the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines due to the storm. There are more than 1,600 Canadians registered in Jamaica.
5:49, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Yeah, the Leafs development camp is underway. We're going to talk to John Bavaros, host of the Hot Take Hockey podcast. That's next.
Welcome back. The Leafs development camp is underway.
Yeah, the team selected Oshawa Generals defenseman Ben Danford with the 31st pick in last week's NHL draft. And the camp also includes 2 prospects trying to crack the Leafs roster next season, Easton Cowan and Fraser Minton, both of whom are coming off big seasons in junior hockey.
I don't know if there's any expectations. I just come in with the expectation isn't on results for me. It's on just how hard I'm going to work and leave everything out there. And I mean, these guys have been at this level watching and playing for way longer than I have, so they'll know if I'm ready or not.
So they're going to be doing a variety of different activities like cooking. They're going to have them down at the OVO Center with the Raptors. We had a few of them out golfing yesterday with our prospects and our signed players, and a variety of different players within the organization, hot stoves that we have going on. So trying to get the players to interact with players that have been there and lived it and just experience. It's a shorter camp this year, only I guess 5 days. So we'll jam it up as much as we can.
And for more on this, we're joined live by John Bavaros, host of the Hot Take Hockey podcast. John, good evening. First and foremost, let's talk about Easton Cowan and Fraser Minton. Do you think that they have a shot at contributing to the Leafs next season?
Thanks, Bakari. Yes, I think both players will have that opportunity. I think last year you saw the Leafs' perspective on their younger guys. They gave Fraser Minton the first stretch of games with the team. And then, of course, he was kind of watching from the press box and just getting to know the guys, and was actually staying with Matthew Nyes at John Tavares' house. So I think the team is definitely going to bring these guys in and get them used to, as Haley Wickenheider said, just the day-to-day of being an NHLer, the cooking, the traveling, all these different things. So I think Easton Cowan is going to get a fair shot to at least start the season. He can have a 9-game tryout basically before his first year of his entry-level contract kicks in. So I think that's potentially what the Leafs will do, similar to what they did last year with Fraser Minten. And then past that, you've got a lot of younger guys coming in, as you mentioned, Ben Danford, the new draft pick, that they'll try to have those similar steps with. So I think for Easton Cowan, he'll probably follow the steps of Fraser Minten last year and at least get that stretch of games to start the season and get used to the players on this team.
And you talked about Ben Danford just a few moments ago. Let's talk more about him. What do you think he brings to the team as a prospect?
So definitely a player I was unfamiliar with in the regular season, but as the season progressed and into the playoffs, a guy to watch out for. And I think that's what the Leafs brass is really looking at when they're scouting and when they're drafting. Easton Cowan, similar last year, when they drafted him late in the first round, he was regarded as a reach for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that he wasn't ranked as a first-round pick. He was barely a top 50 ranked player, and that's similar to Ben Danford. For a lot of different scouts, they did not have Ben Danford in their top 50, but if you did look at the stretch down for the Oshawa Generals, going all the way to the OHL Finals, Ben Danford was a huge perspective of that. Top pair minutes, he plays with an edge. His offensive game was really getting better towards the end. And Easton Cowan, now a prospect with Ben Danford on the Toronto Maple Leafs, he said that Ben Danford is not afraid to block shots. So this is a guy that is really getting to the edge of his offense, but as well, he's really mature on the defensive side of things, which is not really the case for young defensemen coming into the NHL.
Okay, and less to do with the development camp, but the Leafs in general. What else do you think that they need to do to this roster following Monday's free agent frenzy?
So they lost Tyler Bertuzzi to the Chicago Blackhawks in free agency, and I think they probably need to fill that hole in terms of a top 6, top 9 forward, get that secondary scoring. They struggled to score last year against, well, this past playoff run against the Boston Bruins, cut short again, and then against the Florida Panthers the year before in the second round. So I think secondary scoring, they probably look for a third-line center, Bakari. I like where their defense group is headed, but again, probably more of a top 4 guy needed if they really want to go into the season with a top defense group. So there's definitely additions that could make this team better. I do think when you look at the team 5 years ago, look at the team now, every year they've gotten better going into their opening night roster. I think that can be said about this team going into the season if it was to start today. But to answer your question, probably at least one forward, a guy that can play that third-line center spot. Mm-hmm. And then if they can flip Timothy Liljegren, maybe a top defenseman.
All right, John Viveros, host of the Hot Take Hockey podcast. Thanks a lot for your time. And, hey, JV, happy birthday. You always come through for us, and we appreciate it, even on your birthday. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Well, back to our top story now. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators, they are on the move after clearing their encampment at U of T. Let's go live now to CP24's Steve Ryan. Steve.
Yeah, Lena Bakari, it's very loud here, so I apologize if my voice, it sounds like I'm screaming. So this very large crowd exited the University of Toronto campus on the south side and went onto College Street, and now they are going north on St. George's Street. We did hear from some of the organizers at a press conference held just after 5 p.m., and they said that they were adhering to the court injunction, and they have all of their belongings, their tents are down, they've left the encampment, and their words were they were doing it under their own terms and not by way of being forced by the police. So they made some passionate speeches. There's also union members here as well from CUPE and from the Ontario Labour Union as well. We don't know where the crowd is headed from here, but they have vacated the encampment, and they are vowing, though, to continue with their demonstrations. They were speaking directly to the University of Toronto, saying that unless there is disclosure, divestment, and cutting ties with Israeli universities, they said that they will be here every day. But they are honoring the court order, and they have left the encampment, but where they're going from here, we don't know. We have just been following them for the last 45 minutes or so. So I'll send it back to the desk.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live from College Street tonight. Thanks so much. These are live images coming to us from CP24. We did hear from organizers of the encampment a few minutes ago, earlier in the hour. Let's listen.
Today, we are departing from the People's Circle for Palestine, earlier than the 6 p.m. deadline set by the court. We refuse to give the Toronto Police Service any opportunity to brutalize us, as they have done repeatedly. As they have done repeatedly since October to pro-Palestinian protesters across the GTA. We are leaving on our terms to protect our community from the violence that the University of Toronto is clearly eager to unleash upon us.
So again, pro-Palestinian demonstrators have left the campus. A moving demonstration continues. Thanks for watching.